Hello all and welcome, and I'm the MGTOW Philosopher. And in this video, I am going to review an article. It's an older article from 2015, and I'm going to be doing this on a regular basis now, that's talking about MGTOW. Now, the fellow that wrote this is not mainstream media. He's just some dude on the internet who himself wants to cast himself as a pickup artist, but he's not really that. The impression I've gotten from reading this guy's material and looking at his bio and his picture is that he's a guy who's managed to get laid himself, and so he wants somebody to look down upon, and he looks at MGTOW on the surface and says, oh, these are guys who are more pathetic than me. Here's somebody I can bash and feel better about myself because I've been bashed a lot, and now I want the opportunity to bash someone else in turn, and this group is ripe for the pickings. But he shows a fundamental lack of understanding of what MGTOW actually is. Now, let's begin by reading what he had to say. And his name is Matt Forney. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more later because I think it's only fair to review this guy's history and what he does for a living and where he's living and what his bio is to support what he says that might add or take away validity from his words. In the past few months, men going their own way has completed its de-evolution. Excuse me. I don't think it's de-evolved in any way. I think it's continuing to evolve and grow from a sensible philosophy of masculinity. So he actually believes it was at one point sensible, but now it's not, into a cult for lonely virgins. I don't think that MGTOW is that at all. I know in my case it's not. Now, I will agree that some men who have gotten into MGTOW probably do so because they may not have much luck with women. Maybe they do use it as an excuse, but I think that's a minority. See, I think that the view this guy has is that MGTOW men are essentially guys who are pretending to be MGTOW because they can't get laid, and I think that's not only is that's just wrong. I mean, that might be the case in a very small minority, but I think the majority, it's a choice. Making that very negative assumption is foolish. While I never identified as MGTOW myself, right? You couldn't escape the pussy. We get it. By the way, I still sleep with women, but I don't have relationships with them, and I could very well do without them. There is no need for me at this point. It might have something to do with my age. This guy, I believe, is still in his mid-20s, so, he's still got that driving need. With me, it's more like, I can take it or leave it, It's like ice cream or it's something, I enjoy it, but I don't need it, okay? This guy apparently still needs it, okay? While I never identified as MGTOW myself, the old guard MGTOW blog, No Ma'am, whose owner Rob Fetters has become so embarrassed. Okay, so this is more or less an op-ed. He's also speaking for somebody else. I'd want to talk to this Rob Fetters. So I'll check him out and maybe do a video if he has anything to say that corroborates what this guy says. Has become so embarrassed by what MGTOW has become, he's wiped almost all mention of it from his site. Was a huge influence on my thinking. Indeed, it was my introduction to anti-feminist thought in general. Anti-feminist? Wait, what? Anti-feminists are just feminists, guys. So this guy's essentially a male feminist? I see. All right, that's very interesting. So Mr. Matt Forney is a feminist, parading as a pickup artist. But they just come in all shapes and sizes, don't they? And you should watch my video, Anti-Feminism is Just Feminism. You'll see what I'm talking about. These wolves in sheep's clothing. The men who created the MGTOW philosophy a decade ago, Zed, Ragnar, Rob Fetters, etc., were learned men who'd seen the horrors of second and third wave feminism firsthand. They rode motorcycles, banged girls, and read books, sharing their findings via blog and forums. Yeah, those are the good old days, you 26, 27-year-old kid, you. MGTOW was deliberately conceived as an anti-movement in response to the impotence of men's rights activists. Yeah, I got to admit, the men's rights activists are pretty useless. They let all these women into their movement who essentially take it over and cuck the guys and then hamstring them into being totally ineffective. The most recognizable part of modern, and he spells it wrong here. Notice he puts in an I, MGTOW, to try and enunciate more and make it sound pathetic. This guy is funny. Of modern MGTOW bleeding wasn't even mentioned in the original MGTOW manifesto. What the hell is he talking about, manifesto? Dude, MGTOW is don't get married, Don't give women your money. Don't live with them. Don't have kids with them. Don't put yourself in a situation where they can take your resources. That's it. Where does this say anything about not having sex? See, he's talking about MGTOW monks and just people who go into MGTOW to use it as an excuse for why they can't get laid. So they just say, oh, I can get laid. I'm just choosing not to. That'd be a very small minority, pal. As it exists now, MGTOW has become a lonely hearts club. This guy's got nothing original of his own. He's just trying to spout what he thinks is obvious and use a few little platitudes. Lonely hearts club. Well, I'm not lonely, and if I want the company of a woman, I have it. See, again, I guess I'm just going from my own experience, and maybe I'm projecting that onto other MGTOW guys. But from what I've read and what I've learned about other MGTOW guys and, other guys I've talked to, this really isn't the case. I don't see a lonely hearts club. He's implying here that it's somehow not a choice and that people are using MGTOW as an excuse because they're really just lonely losers who can't get chicks, as if our whole existence should revolve around getting chicks to validate us. For the refuse of the male species, we'll find out a little bit more about this guy and what refuse actually is. Then you'll see he's just fronting, as they say. Not only are most virgins going their own way, virgins, holy shit, son. You're lumping everybody and together and painting them with the same brush. That's a big mistake, a mistake that oftentimes the young make. You tend to make make hyperbole of this nature to get clicks and to get outrage and get people talking about you. But not all publicity is good publicity, okay, son? Painting all of a particular group with one single brush is wrong, wrong, wrong. Not only are most virgins going their own way, personally repellent losers. Really? So everybody in the MGTOW movement are losers. Excuse me. That seems like that's a pretty big statement to make, pal. I personally am not a loser, and I don't think most of the guys in the MGTOW movement are a loser. I think that most of them are just guys who have seen the reality of female nature. Now, you're somebody who may actually themselves be a loser, and you're wanting to try and drum up and use social, so we say, dislike for the MGTOW movement, where the society and the mainstream doesn't agree with this, so you're trying to use that to your favor to maybe make money, get famous, makes you a sellout, essentially. And so, yeah, that's my thought on that. I think you're probably trying to sell out men, and I don't think you're in any way a winner, okay? I've seen that. You'll see what I mean when I talk about this guy more and show you his bio. Their own way, personally repellent losers. Well, you'd have to meet every one of them to say that. Their philosophy is completely wrong-headed. Why is it wrong-headed? He doesn't say. He just says it's wrong-headed. So this is just critical theory from the Frankfurt School. So he's just borrowing leftist tactics and criticizing without actually giving an argument. All right. Men going their own way will never appeal to anything more than the rejects of American society. Really? Like yourself. This guy, by the way, when you see his bio, you'll see what I mean. Rejects of American society? How so? Oh, no explanation of why they're rejects. No argument for that. Just hyperbole. Just throw that out there. Personal attacks and no explanations. I see. Because it's a philosophy that denies the fundamental nature of human beings. He's got this nice little picture here of the official virgin age meter. That's funny. It's interesting. It's nonsense, of course. And if you see his picture and his bio, this number 21 right here, that's him. So I find it fascinating that this guy would post this here because of all these pictures and all these, this is what he looks like. Now, he may or may not be a virgin, but that's the guy's picture right here. Anyway, one common talking point of MGTOW, he throws in the I again, oy vey, is that their beliefs represent a completely new take on masculinity. They do? I don't know about that, pal. I think they represent a completely old and time-honored take on masculinity, that masculine men are masculine men, and we're not going to let women emasculate us, okay? The rejection of male subservience to women, or pussy worship. I agree with that. Oh, what he's saying here is that we should worship pussy, that we should worship women. A completely new take, rejecting male subservience to women. Pal, why don't you go back 100 years? You really think that men were subservient to women? In some ways they were, but not really. I mean, if you look at things, we were slaves to each other. And I talk about this in some of my videos, that essentially the man enslaved himself to his family, providing resources and such. And the woman enslaved herself to the family and the man by providing her services and her effort to raise the kids and take care of the household. They both were enslaved, but they were enslaved to each other, okay? Subservience implies that one is master and one is servant. It doesn't imply any form of mutual oppression of the other. So what you're saying is total nonsense, okay? Men in the past, before this century, if you go back to the 19th and even early 20th century, were in no way subservient to women. It was the other way around in the most extreme cases, but for the most part, it was equal oppression. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Men served the women, women served the men. In that way, there was far more equality than there is now. So the subservience to women you're talking about is a recent phenomenon, and it is in no way... Now, that's the new take. He's got it backwards. The new take is this, okay? This pussy worship and subservience to women, as the perma-virgins call it. That's very interesting. Like I said, I've seen this guy's bio. We'll talk about it after this article. This guy is in no way any kind of stud or suave dude or good-looking bad boy. Like I said, he's just somebody who's managed to get laid off of what I guess is a little bit of charm and maybe a little bit of spending money on women. And essentially, he resents people who have called him a pussy worshiper and a cuck. And so he's basically firing back with this nonsense about MGTOW being all perma-virgins. So he's just probably another one of these envious tradcon guys, another one of these envious guys, no matter what he might say. You know, he sounds like a tradcon cuck in some ways to me. Spiritual and philosophical movements focused on celibacy and denial of base urges have a long pedigree in human history. Now he's trying to sound intelligent here, which he's not, really, because he's making false equivalencies, because there's nothing about MGTOW that says anything about celibacy or denial of base urges. Just don't give women shit. I don't know where he's getting this information. He's just trying to take the most extreme MGTOW guys, the monks, and cast them as the whole movement. Very silly. From early Buddhism and Jainism in India to the Catholic priesthood, monastic orders such as Trappist and quasi-Christian. Oh, he used the word quasi. Ooh, he's really trying to impress you with his verbosity. Yes, Christian offshoots such as the Shakers. Interesting. While it might inflate the bloated ego of the average MGTOW, he throws in an I there, even though that's... What an idiot. He's trying to do everything he can by changing the pronunciation and putting a emphasis on an I sound to try and make it less valid. It's funny. To be compared to great religious movements of the past and present, MGTOW fails even on that front. How so? Monks and the nuns don't take the vows because they're angry at not being able to get a date. MGTOW don't take any vows. You've made a totally false equivalence here. And by the way, MGTOW is in no way about not fucking women. I don't get this guy. They choose their lifestyles because they want to become closer to God. Oh, so now you're a religious egghead too. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. It explains the illogic of your arguments. Oh, you have no arguments. I see. Aside from avoiding women, in actuality being rejected by them, these are just some grand... generalizations. Dude, you're certainly not talking to me because I identify as a MGTOW guy and women don't reject me. I reject them when they become too much of a pain in the ass. I guess he can't fathom that because he himself is rejected a lot. I think this guy is really projecting, to be honest. I think he's projecting his own flaws and his own failings with women onto somebody else so that he can mock them the way he's probably been mocked in his life. VGTOWs. Oh, so I guess, virgins going their own way. That's very funny. Yeah, oh boy, geez, I ain't been a virgin a long time, buddy. Before you were born, I think. So interesting. Oh yeah, long before you were born. This kid is funny. Indulge in every vice available to them, from Cheetos to video games to masturbation. Their lifestyle. Well, what's wrong with masturbation, pal? Nothing wrong with that. I don't down it. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sure you do quite a bit of it. Their lifestyles are the very opposite of self-control. Oh, this is amusing. Have you seen this guy's picture? Wait until you see this guy's picture. Then we'll talk about self-control. This guy ate his way through the supermarket from aisle 1 to 10. It's very interesting. This guy talks about self-control. The MGTOW aversion to interacting with women also has a less pleasant parallel to radical feminism. Now he's doing the old standby of pairing MGTOW, which he places an I in there for some reason. He's too stupid to realize that looks idiotic and makes him look idiotic. In the 1970s, extreme feminists such as Andrea Dworkin argued for political lesbianism, where feminists only had relationships with other women. If you're saying there's a less pleasant parallel, then wouldn't that mean that we guys would have to have essentially advocated and be advocating for relationships just with other men? I'm not seeing the... I'm not seeing the comparison here. Regardless of their sexual orientation, Dworkin's logic, I've seen Dworkin. She's a land whale, disgusting woman, mental problems. Dworkin's logic was that since men were oppressing women, feminists who dated men were likely fraternizing with the enemy. Well, she's crazy. Just this crazy bitch. I wouldn't be surprised if some MGTOWs start advocating political homosexuality. Okay, so no MGTOW have done that. You just said that MGTOW, aversion to interacting with women, also has a less pleasant parallel to radical feminism. The comparison that you just made of Andrea Dworkin and radical feminists in the 1970s essentially giving up men to sleep with women, even if they're not lesbians, compares them to MGTOW, even though MGTOW don't advocate that. So there's zero comparison. So you just made an idiot of yourself. Oh, but of course I'm sure you do it so often that you're not even aware of it when you do it. If you bang a dude, he won't jam you for child support or falsely accuse you of rape, and you certainly won't be worshiping pussy if you pack fudge. This guy, holy shit. I think he's just trying to provoke people. He just to get views. I mean, this guy is essentially a troll. You'll just be exposing yourself to HIV and drug-resistant gonorrhea, all things you can get from normal sex as well. But hey, you got to take the good with the bad. So this guy, he's making false equivalencies and using arguments that are in no way even valid when he does make an argument. The masculine and the feminine. You throw the yin and yang up there. By the way, they don't represent masculine and feminine, okay? That's your interpretation. More to the point, MGTOW will never catch on for the same reason that political lesbianism never became popular. So now he's comparing MGTOW with political lesbianism, even though MGTOW has never advocated that. I see. So false equivalency, straw man, rolled into one, moron. Okay. And they never became popular because they both deny the fact that men and women want to be with each other. Really? Do they? Do they, pal? Women don't seem to want to be with men too much because they don't do what's necessary to be with men. They reject their gender roles. Of course, I don't hear you saying anything about that. I do hear you talking about how evil MGTOW guys are just because you perceive them as guys who are losers that can't get women, when in truth, the majority of MGTOW guys can get women just fine. It's just that they've left women behind because it's too much of a pain in the ass and the pendulum has swung too much the other way. And so we're checking out so as to not enable it to swing even further in women's favor. He doesn't seem to get that. MGTOWs, he's spelling it wrong again. It's not even a spelling, it's an anagram, you fool. Redefine all male-female relationship. What's the I stand for then? Men, going their own way. Yeah, he's an idiot. Redefine all male-female relationships into male servitude of women. No. Women did that. Women did that with feminism, and we're walking away from that. Much the same way that radical feminists recast relationship as men oppressing women. Radical feminists had it wrong. They just wanted more power, and they were supported by the global elites who financed them, and they were supported by leftists who wanted communism. Feminism is nothing more than a convenient tool of the left, okay? And by the way, feminism is essentially cultural Marxism, nothing more. problem with this is that the relationship between men and women is one of the most fundamental aspects of human nature. He just makes all these statements, but he doesn't present arguments for these statements. As Jack Donovan stated in his book, No Man's Land, masculinity and femininity are defined in opposition to each other. Without one, the other cannot exist. Well, yeah, because you can't have kids without both, you moron, of course. The idea that men can go it alone or that any form of relationship with women is pussy worship. Now he is just being purposely disingenuous. That's not what MGTOW is saying. What it is saying is that don't get into the type of relationship where women can steal your shit. Okay, I mean, I guess he's talking about marriage and such. Well, marriage essentially is enslaving yourself to women these days, okay? It didn't used to be. What he's talking about is only a current phenomenon, okay? The idea that men go alone in any form of relation and that any form of relationship with a woman is pussy worship. No, MGTOW didn't say that. Now you're just lying. Now you're just misrepresenting MGTOW to make a stupid argument that's convenient for you, and your narrative is a perversion of the flawed libertarian belief that the smallest unit of society is the individual. Hey, dummy, that's right. Society is made of individuals, not many collectives. We are all individuals. Both libertarians and MGTOWs. That's inaccurate, but funny. No, you mean MGTOWs ignore that humans are fundamentally interdependent. We are? We're interdependent? Then where did the word independent come from? Huh? We just made that up. It's not a valid word. With countless relationships, laws, customs, family connections. He's a socialist. This guy's a socialist. He's in no way a conservative. He doesn't really seem to know what he is, but it seems that the base core of all his beliefs is communism. And everything he's talking about now is communism. Countless relationships, laws, customs, family connections, etc., binding us. A society of... Oh, there's that word society. He's a communist. He thinks society is a real thing instead of what society really is. Society is the only construct, okay? Society doesn't construct things. There is no society. All society is a bunch of people who decided to live in the same area, okay? That's it. It's not a collective of any kind. It's not some kind of amorphous blob that by itself exists separately from the people that have created it. We're not the Borg, okay, buddy? I'm sure you know what the Borg are. I bet you've watched a lot of TV and you're well familiar with Star Trek. I have no doubt of that, okay? I'm sure the reference hits home very well. We are not Borg, okay? It doesn't work that way. A society of atomized... He's trying to sound intelligent. This guy's a terrible writer. Disconnected individuals is no society at all. Yeah, we don't have it. Society's not real. It's just a concept that doesn't actually exist in reality. Society is not this amorphous blob that by itself exists, and everybody in it is like these little tiny brain cells. Like every friggin' human is a brain cell, and, you separate all the brain cells, and then, they're nothing. But then you bring them together, and they make a human brain. No. That's not society, dummy. Okay? The smallest unit of society is not the individual, but the relationship between two individuals. Well, you just said that it was even bigger than that. Make up your mind. The reality is that as frayed as relations between the sexes are, men and women still fundamentally want to be together. So what? So what? I fundamentally want to eat as much as I possibly can until I explode because evolution has taught me to basically stuff my face with as much food as possible because, tomorrow I might starve. Does that mean I should? Does that mean it's good for me? We have free will and we have logic and we have reason to make better decisions than what our biology tells us we should be making. So we choose to do what's best for us, not what our biological imperative is pushing us to do. Even the most Instagram-obsessed, passive-aggressive, narcissistic millennial girl. But you're a millennial. I see when you've been born. You're in your 20s. You're a millennial. You're not in your 30s, buddy. You're a kid. Hey, you're a millennial. And by the way, notice all his pejoratives that are personal attacks on people without giving some kind of argument beforehand about why they are this way. Everyone is Instagram-obsessed. The MGTOW is Instagram-obsessed. Passive-aggressive. They're narcissistic. Millennial girl desires a man to take her. Really? Oh, women just want men to take them, do they? I see. Okay. And you're the guy doing the taking, I assume. Really? You wait until you see this guy. And despite their whinnying. Like a horse, you mean? The average Doritos munching MGTOW. I haven't had Doritos in about fucking 20 years. That's a very interesting. I guess he's talking about MGTOW guys just sit around and munch on snacks and shit. Would go pussy worshiper in a flash if a cute, agreeable girl was dropped in his lap. I'd fuck her, but she'd be worshiping my cock as much as I'd be worshiping her pussy in that sense. I mean, if that's your definition of pussy worship, well, okay. But his definition of pussy worship is a little different than mine. And apparently he's a pussy worshiper as well. And he thinks that's just fine. Now, most people that worship pussy are losers who can't get it very often. And when they do, they're so grateful that they got it that they worship it. And, of course, he's got this picture of a pathetic guy here. I guess. Guy looks pretty pathetic, I'll agree. And he's saying, MGTOW, will you please go now? And this is the MGTOW guy, is it? I don't think the average MGTOW guy looks anything like that. I don't know that I'm the average MGTOW guy, but I look nothing like that. Women actually want to bang me. I guess that this guy, yeah, most women probably wouldn't want to. But then you'd have to check out his bank account, too, because if he's got money, that's all that matters, honey. In the end, men going their own way is a passing fad, limited to a few bottom-feeding feeders. Right, okay, so he's essentially been mocked and ridiculed by MGTOW guys, attacking him for what looked like a mixture of PUA, TradCon, and communist ideologies, and now he wants to lash out at them. So he's representing them in the worst way possible. I see. Who have been shipped off to die on the battlefield in epochs less squeamish than our own. The de facto Marxism of most. But you're a Marxist. You're a Marxist, pal. You're a communist. Everything that you're talking about. The de facto Marxism of most major MGTOW YouTubers. Marxism? Really? Do you know what Marxism is, my friend? The ideology of oppressor and oppressed. Is essentially sticking to that. We argue against that ideology, my friend. We argue against it. Or unless you're saying that, oh, us saying that we are now the ones being oppressed, so we need to essentially move away from women until the ship rights itself, that's us believing in Marxism. No, we're just recognizing that Marxism is being used against us, you fool, that it actually exists in society, and then we have to do things to remedy it. We're not an idiot like you, who decries something that is actually trying to balance things out, as evidenced by their pathological obsession with bashing tradcons. You're not a tradcon. You're a tradcon in sheep's clothing, because a lot of what you've said is communism and socialism at its base. You are not even a tradcon. Their autistic term for anyone, you mean traditional conservative, autistic. He throws out all these base insults. I mean, the biggest insult I'll give somebody is they're a moron if they say something moronic, which deserves to be called moronic. But this guy calling people autistic, oh my God. Term for anyone who acknowledges the natural place of men and women. Wait a second. So that's natural. Be that as it may, we're not the ones who broke the so-called covenant and left the plantation. And you should watch my video, Why Women Can Leave the Plantation. It'll tell you a lot. In this regard, but we're not the ones that walked away. So what you're essentially saying is we should just adhere to and stick to our traditional gender role, even though women have left and are not adhering and sticking to their traditional gender roles. And it's your idea that it makes the most sense to attack your own gender men who are actually trying to do something to correct the problem and stop the ship from sinking even more. That's your solution. Is to attack us. We're trying to bail the water out. The fucker is sinking. And you're like, oh, you bailing the water. You need to let it sink more. God damn it, you autistic fuckers, you. I see. Acknowledges the natural place of men and women also renders them useless. It renders us useless to women, which is what I'm going for. Maybe you want to be useful to women so you can get laid. Despite their claims that there's no difference between the left and the right, MGTOWs, yeah, idiot, he gets that wrong again, almost never attack the misandrous feminist left. I do. You clearly have not watched my channel. So here he's saying it right here. He's been attacked by them. Oh, they're not going after the left. They're going after guys like me who are tradcons. So I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to call them pussies and autistic. And I'm going to say that Yeah, they're virgins who can't get laid. This is pretty pathetic, actually. It's pretty pathetic. This is the lowest common denominator. The two lowest common denominator guys punching each other in the face. Oh, my God. I mean, this guy who's basically essentially the lowest common denominator on the right, and he's not even a rightist. He's a socialist communist who's essentially parading around as a traditional conservative, and he's attracting what he perceives as MGTOWs, which are really the lowest common denominator. I mean, a very small percentage of MGTOW guys who fit the description that he's giving, and they're punching each other in the face. Meanwhile, a guy like me is just sitting there and laughing and saying, what a couple of idiots. Their impotent rage against anything deemed tradcon, even though tradcons have virtually no influence in society. Really? Traditional conservative values sure do have some influence because they're what keep pushing men to get married, you fool. Indicates that MGTOWs are just as opposed to the natural order of humanity as the average pierced-lip, easily triggered Tumblrina. No. Yes and no. We are against men putting themselves in positions to have their shit taken from them, their kids taken from them, and transferring all their resources. I'm pro-man. That's what I am. That's all I am. I'm pro-man. I'm for protecting men. And I think you would have to agree that this does that. And it doesn't do it at the expense of men. It does it to aid men. MGTOWs are the social justice warriors of the manosphere. Wrong. Because social justice warriors use subjectivism and illogic, and they don't use arguments. They use what you've done, essentially, which is critical theory and negative philosophy, where everything is open to interpretation and character assassination tactics and such. So, no, we use logic and reason, and we just go our own way. We just go our own way, and we try to counsel other guys to do the same. Hardly the same thing. You used to watch my video, MGTOW and feminism, are they the same? No. And you'll learn that. MGTOWs are the social justice warriors of the manosphere, hysterical, intolerant of criticism. No, plenty of people criticize me. I laugh at them. I do videos about them, and I laugh at them, and I mock them, and I actually give arguments about why they're wrong. I don't just come out and use critical theory from the Frankfurt School like you, who is basically a leftist, socialist communist trying to parade himself as a traditional conservative. And you're a feminist, too, and you're saying you're not a feminist, and you're basically preaching shit that would be good and help feminists. Men, go back to the plantation because it's natural. Okay. Their vision of masculinity is one in which men turn inward, refusing to accomplish anything of value. Wow, what that doesn't even have anything to do with women. Some MGTOW out there, some of the most successful guys. I mean, I'm a very successful person in my life, and I would guess that many MGTOW have their own businesses, are very productive, and more so because they don't have women as a distraction. It's comments like that tell me that this guy is very biased and that he has a personal animus toward MGTOW, and the way that he is trying to classify all people who even have a tangential belief in this philosophy. You could call it, I wouldn't even call it a philosophy, but this movement. He's trying to cast them with the same brush because, you know, the things he's saying are so personal, and there's so much animus in what he's saying. I think it is just for him. It's very personal. I think this guy's been mocked a lot, and he's just lashing out now. And I think a lot of it's projection. He's just saying everything he's saying applies to him. I believe so. Their vision of masculinity is one where men turn inward. No, not at all. I engage with the world, and I fuck women. Yes, imagine that. I associate myself loosely, at least, with the term MGTOW in the sense that I will not marry a woman, live with a woman, or give her money, or let her have my kid. That makes me a MGTOW because that's what MGTOW is. Now, at what level you choose to interact with women is your choice, and I do admit that some MGTOW guys do choose to go to the point where they have no interaction with women. And I in no way fault them for that. I should have said that earlier when two guys punched in the face, and I said they're both, and I laugh at both. But the truth of the matter is, I think that at least MGTOW guys who are going monk, they have a legitimate reason for doing so. You're branding yourself traditional conservative. You're really a communist, feminist cuckboy. and you're trying to associate yourself with something that's a little more in line with mainstream conservative values so that you will feel more accepted and acceptable, and you have a bigger platform behind you and to speak off of, I think that you are essentially have less reason. You really have less reason to be doing what you're doing. I mean, at least the guy who goes monk, yeah, okay, but he has more justification. He has an actual justification. Unless he is that small minority who really can't get laid and is just using MGTOW as an excuse. But like I said, I don't think most are like that, to be honest. You, on the other hand, women have essentially taken over society, and they use and abuse men. Pretty much every man, if he gets into a relationship with a woman, is almost guaranteed to be used and abused. You're saying, oh, you should just accept it because it's natural. That is some really timid, cowardly shit, man. And it's weak. Very weak. MGTOW is no place for men who are proud of being men. Well, it's for you then. You're certainly not proud of being a man. You essentially go against your own species, your own race, your own sex. You go against men. You attack men when the problem is women. I think you've made my point that you're a feminist, and you are a socialist, and you're a communist who's trying to parade himself around as a traditional conservative to make your opinions, which are clearly cultural Marxist opinions, accepted, and not doing a very good job of it. In my next video, I will take a look at Matt Forney, and we will get to see him live espousing his views. And, of course, I will mock him, mock his views, because I don't want to personally attack him, of course, even though he has personally attacked so many people in this supposedly unbiased assessment of MGTOW, which was completely biased and loaded with hyperbole and personal insults. So let me know what you think in the comments. Also, I want to refer you to the description in this video, where you will find a link to my weekly live chat session on Discord from 11 in the morning New York time to 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Saturday mornings. So check out that link. It'll take you to the chat room. And let me know what you thought of this video, and I wish you a good day. Take care.